Thank you very much, David. That really was very much appreciated. And just as you're leaving there, just leave you with the thought, we're looking forward to just, keeping that going, more of that nice investment into these areas, things like graphene centres, high performance computing. Sounds great to us. Thank you very much. In terms of going into the report a little bit more, I'm the chair of the Northwest Business Leadership Team. For those of you that don't know me, Juergen Maier, also the managing director of Siemens Industrial Activities here in the UK, based here in Manchester, and personally, both from a Siemens but also from a personal point of view, totally passionate about innovation, R&D and science being the key driver in regard to ultimately supporting great companies like ours and all of the companies who are members of the Northwest Business Leadership Team develop their products, innovations of the future that hopefully we can commercialize here, produce here, export from here, create jobs here in the Northwest, which is what all of this is about. The work in this report has been done by the team, Northwest Leadership Team themselves, as we do with all of these thought leadership reports that we've been launching. This is actually the third in a line of reports that we have launched. The first one was on skills, the second one was transport, and this very important one on science, technology and innovation. And of course you spot a bit of a trend there. All of those are about supporting more prosperity, a better environment for business here in the Northwest. This particular report, I want to particularly thank our sponsors, without whom we couldn't put the resources into doing all of the research and making sure we reflect the absolute strengths of the Northwest in here. We've been able to do that because of the generous support of our sponsors, which is AstraZeneca, Baxi Heating, the University of Manchester and United Utilities. So thank you to all of you for helping us put this report together. All, of course, also very innovative companies here in our region. But without further ado, because I think David said the rest that I was going to say much better than I was going to. Maybe the only slight thing that we'd obviously like a little bit more balance on is the fact that actually the imbalance, despite what David just said, is still not right. There is far more R&D money goes into the southeast of London than does into the northwest, and obviously that's really why we launched this report and why we're here, to make sure that that is better understood. But to go into more detail of that, I'm now going to hand over to our two co-chairs of this report, both members of the Northwest Business Leadership Team, and they took co-chairmanship role of bringing this report together, and that is the Vice President of AstraZeneca Alderley Park, Chris Doherty, who will speak first, and then the Managing Director of Baxi Heating UK, David Pinder, who will speak second, specifically on the report, and then I will introduce our other two speakers, Andrew Miller MP and Dame Nancy Rothwell. But first of all, over to you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Juergen. Of course, David has now said everything that we were going to say to you completely. But I guess first of all, I would like to add my thanks to the team that's done this work, particularly Ursula Roos, who's been fantastically helpful in pulling it together, and all the partners and stakeholders we've had on this. The university's been really helpful, and the LEPs have been really helpful. So the purpose was to review, the science and innovation in the Northwest. I think our incoming view was, I think, as Juergen has said, that we have great science and innovation in this part of the world, but we just don't do enough with it, and we don't coordinate it enough. So I guess in the Northwest BLT, we wanted to highlight that. We wanted to bring that to the surface and give it some attention, and call on, particularly the LEPs, to help us do something about that. So the process was to look at the overall science and technology in the region. We didn't want to look at everything. We wanted to be quite focused. We were looking for world-class science and technology, and we were quite ruthless about what we were looking for. So there were 36 initial areas. We narrowed that down to the 4 that made it in the report. And these are really where there is a strong ecosystem in the Northwest. That had to mean good university support, there had to be good commercial support, and leading into manufacturing as well. So we were very pleased to find 4, and those are the ones we are recommending for further development. So quickly to review those, the first one, of course, is advanced materials and molecular manipulation. Great academic strengths in material science in Manchester and Liverpool, of course graphene and the whole initiative around that. The hope that the innovation centre that was announced in the budget will come to Manchester, of course, in that, and tissue engineering, all rounded out a really considerable ecosystem in advanced materials. The second one in energy research and nuclear, again, the 3 strong universities in this area, a strong commercial base in Cumbria, and of course Birchwood Park, having a great cluster of nuclear companies there, and the energy coast with wind, tidal and wave as well. Again, showing a kind of cohesiveness and a depth and breadth in energy research. Cancer research, and my background in this area in AstraZeneca, again, strong universities, Manchester and Liverpool, some fantastic clinical centres in the Christie, the MRCRC and the Wolfson Institute, and a range of supporting infrastructure with academic health science networks in this part of the world being very strong, UK Biobank being in this part of the world, and all of that's required to do cancer research today. Strong companies, of course, operating in this field, despite my company's decision to relocate part of it to Cambridge, and the hope that the new owners at Alderley Park will continue the 50-year legacy we have in cancer research therapies from Alderley Park, and really the UK's most successful cancer research site by a long way, into the future, and that will thrive as a new multi-company site in the long term. And then finally, high-performance computing and big data, strong academic centres, the great centre at Daresbury, the Hartree Centre, the Blue Jewel supercomputer, these things, and a cluster of companies around that. Again, that became our 4th centre. So really we're looking for some commitments from our LEPs. You know, the NWBLT can analyse and point out what we think should be done, and we really speak to the LEPs really for 3 commitments. One really is to help build a blueprint to allow these different areas to be fully developed. That means a full development prospectus. We've seen those in Oxford and Cambridge, and they're very good, and they've been doing this for decades. We need to get good at doing this, and that has to be led by the labs. Also in other areas, looking at the ecosystems and the clusters we have in other areas other than the top 4, and developing those, nurturing those, and bringing those forward. And then finally, funding. David said that, but I agree with Juergen. The funding is far too biased to the southeast, and therefore we want the LEPs to push forward with their strategic economic plans and their growth fund plans, and to get more funding for companies in this part of the world. So those were some highlights from my perspective from the report. I'll ask my co-conspirator David to talk about some of the other aspects.